Hey there, we are just waiting a moment for the session to start. While we do, say hi in the chat and tell us what kind of designer you are. We will wait just another minute and then we are starting. Okay. Hey everyone. All right, let's get started. Welcome again and thanks for joining. I'm Yaren, a digital product marketer at UXfolio, and I will be your MC. Today's session is called How UX Portfolios Are Actually Evaluated and Why Juniors Misjudge the Game. And we promise we are going to be very honest about it. So this session, we will be hearing directly from three experienced voices who have seen thousands of portfolios from the hiring side. Reka Naik, product designer at UXfolio, Laura Shima, UX team lead at UX Studio, and Akosh Ijak, product lead at UXfolio. They will share what they really look for and what actually influences hiring decisions. And if you are thinking, I want to fix my portfolio after this, we will have a special offer for you at the end of the session. So make sure you stay with us until the end. So we are ready. Let's get started. I will hand it over to Reka, who will start by sharing her perspective as a product designer and portfolio expert. Reka, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Yaren, and hi everyone. Thanks for joining. So, being on the hiring side has shown me something interesting. There's a huge gap between how designers think their portfolios are being reviewed and what reviewers actually look for. Today, we're going to close that gap. We're doing that by answering three key questions about UX hiring in 2026. First, I'll walk you through how the portfolio review process actually looks like behind the scenes. Then Laura will break down what to avoid and what actually works in portfolios. Finally, Akosh will talk about what non-design leaders look for and how hiring decisions are really made. By the end, you won't just know how to improve your portfolio, you'll understand the game you're actually playing. But first, let's talk about how much portfolios matter in the hiring process. Let me give you a concrete example from when we were hiring a product designer at UXfolio. This is our hiring process. We had almost 300 applicants. Only 4 made it to the final interview, and we hired 1. The biggest drop off happened at the portfolio review stage. Less than 20% passed it. That means more than 80% of candidates were rejected based mainly on their portfolio. That's how much it matters. Your portfolio isn't a nice to have, it's the biggest gatekeeper in the hiring process. So let's talk about how they are actually reviewed. When I review portfolios, I don't read every single one from top to bottom. I filter them. There are 3 levels of filters I go through. If a portfolio doesn't pass 1, I close the tab. So only the best ones reach level 3, where I decide if they move on to the next round in the hiring process. Level 1 is about role match and relevance. Level 2 is about the case studies. Level 3 is about mindset and team fit. Let me break down what I look for exactly at each stage. The first level is very quick, usually about 30 seconds. I'm asking myself one question. Does this person match the role we are hiring for? Here, what I'm focusing on are things like the first impression. Do I like what I see? Is this portfolio a good experience, both visually and from a usability perspective? I don't want anything out of the ordinary or innovative. I just want to find everything I need without any hassle. Then, profession and specialization, preferably right at the top. I want to immediately understand what kind of designer the candidate is and if their experience level matches what we're looking for. The best way to make this clear is by stating it in your main headline. If location matters for the role, add it to your hero section too. We were hiring for a hybrid role, and candidates who clearly stated a close enough location stood out instantly. Finally, I checked the work section, but only briefly. I want to see if the candidate has relevant work experience and evidence of it in the form of case studies. I'm not interested in other types of work. I don't care how good your branding projects are if I'm hiring for a product design role. I just want to see whether you can do this role, what this role requires. That's why it's important to be strategic about the case studies you show and the order in which you display them. If I have to guess what you do or if the work feels irrelevant, I close the portfolio. Let me show how I'd review this example. The first impression is great, clean, modern, and it's easy to understand the structure. The headline tells me that this person is a product designer who works on mobile apps, not a design unicorn or any other made up term. And I can see mobile app case studies right there under the hero section. So if I'm hiring for that kind of role, they are moving on for the next stage. Here are other two examples of homepages built in UXfolio that would easily pass the first impression test, not just because they look good, but because they highlight what I need at this stage. I'd like to highlight some nice touches in these portfolios. In the first one, the logo wall, which showcases previous clients or companies. And in the second one, the case study labels or chips that help me see the different categories of projects right away. If the portfolio passes level 1, I dive deeper. Level 2 takes 2-3 minutes per case study, or longer if I really like what I see. My question now is, can this person actually do what they claimed? To find out, I scan the case study for a clear role and contribution. Do I understand exactly what they were responsible for? I want to see ownership, not just vague project descriptions. Then, thinking process. Do they explain how they approached the problem? Do I see decisions, iterations, and reasoning? I'm looking for how they think, not just what they delivered. Then, visual design skills. Do I see good UX, tasteful UI, and well designed micro interactions? If your product wasn't visually exciting, like many B2B or internal products, you can still present it well. Just use a nice frame, clean mockups, or even a small redesign concept to show what you do without constraints. This way you would still show your visual design skills. Finally, I check the outcome and the impact. What changed because of their work? Did it move a metric? Did it improve something meaningful for the team or the users? The impact doesn't have to be measurable. I know many designers don't have access to metrics. The goal is to show the value of your work, but Laura will actually talk about impact in more detail later. If I only see pretty screens without clear ownership, thinking, and impact, again, I close the tab. Now, again, let's look at the example I have here. So the layout is scannable and the key details are highlighted. I can instantly spot things like the designer role or the project's timeline. Notice there's also a before and after image with annotations on what changed right in the beginning of the case study. This is a great strategy to show impact right away and make reviewers interested in how you got there. Here are other visuals you can use to show your thinking and impact without writing too much. Annotations on mockups are a smart way to explain your thinking and provide context right on the image. Then, text highlights for metrics, user quotes, and key insights are a great way to drive your narrative and break up blocks of text. You can also embed video walkthroughs or Figma prototypes to showcase flows and to make your case study more engaging and dynamic. But always provide context for these so that I know what I should click on. If the case studies check out, I move on to the final level. Level 3 is about risk reduction. This takes another 2-3 minutes. Now I'm asking, do I feel safe saying yes to this person? I look for key details like signs of collaboration with developers, PMs, and other designers. Do they show that they can work in a team? Do they mention handovers, feedback loops, and iterations? I strongly believe that good software is built with good relationships, so I always look for signs of smooth collaboration and people skills. Then I'm checking if the candidate talks about the users. I don't want to see detailed user test scripts or interview notes. I just want to see the key insights they gained from any type of user research and how those insights actually shaped their designs. I also want to see some business thinking. I want to make sure that they understand at least the basic product metrics like activation, conversion, retention, or churn. If they can show that their solution improved or aimed to improve any of these metrics, that's already a great sign. Finally, I check the About page to see if they're a good team and cultural fit. I look for the career journey and a glimpse of personality, like what they do outside of work and how they think about design. But balance is key. Don't overshare, but don't hide your personality completely either. This is the perfect place for awards, articles, side projects, or mentoring activities. Testimonials are also a great addition. Feedback from colleagues or stakeholders on what it's like to work with you builds trust. So, this level is less about hard skills and more about mindset and team fit. If I see any red flags that could be harmful for the team, like negative attitude or inability to collaborate, I pass, even if level 1 or 2 and 2 were strong. In these examples, you can see a clean testimonial section and an about page with personality and highlights of the designer's core values. So that's what the review process looks like from my side. Now the question is, how can you make sure you pass it? Laura will break down what you should do and what to avoid. So over to you, Laura.
Thank you very much, Rika, and thank you for walking us through your portfolio review process. And yeah, so that said, let's dive into how to actually make sure that you're passing the case study review process, the portfolio review process. So first things first, let's start with the content. So what should you include in your portfolio? And the impulse here is to add everything that you've ever worked on, but what we would recommend, or what I would recommend that you do, is add the work that you're proud of or the work that had a meaningful impact. The thing is that portfolios should not be your entire professional history, especially if you're someone who has a bit of experience. In that case, your portfolio should not be a collection of everything and anything that you've ever worked on. The portfolio is basically a snapshot of where you currently are as a designer and what you can do or what you can achieve. So my advice would be to add your best work and to try to filter this. There's an important thing to mention here as well. There's also a time constraint. So whenever a recruiter looks at your portfolio, they don't have the time to go through everything that you've ever worked on. So it's important to make sure that you're adding the things which are the most important, the things which had the biggest impact, and additionally the things that you are proud of. And on top of that, adding everything that you worked on is also a signal that you don't know how to prioritize talking about your work. And I imagine that by this time, most of you are thinking, okay, but then how do I choose? And here I would recommend following a few simple steps. Is start to think about the position that you're applying for. So if you're going for a general product designer position, then try to match the industry or the themes relevant in the job application with the case studies that you've worked for. If you're going for a position that's mostly working with mobile apps, then try to find projects which are for mobile, either apps or websites or things like that. So don't focus only on desktop projects. It's important to consider the context and what would be relevant for that context given your experience. And basically, how you build up your portfolio is to show that you have the necessary skills and experience for the position. And by this time, I think some of you are career switchers or juniors, and the question is like, okay, but I don't have a lot of work to show. What can I do about this? And there are some things that we can suggest that you recommend. So first of all, try freelancing. That would be a good opportunity to get some projects under your belt. Try how it works to actually build up your experience and your portfolios. The other thing is to try to offer help to friends and families. This might not be ideal, but still you need to get some experience in your portfolio. The other thing that you could try is passion projects. So, but try to go a bit deeper beyond designing screens. So there are a lot of AI and low-code tools available, and you can experiment and build something just to give you an idea of what it's like to build something for someone really quickly and iterate on it and learn from the experience. What I would also recommend here, especially for juniors, is to try to find a mentor to give you feedback, because from my experience, the feedback from someone who has a bit more experience is something that would actually help you improve, and it will help you build up the work that you need in order to actually build a good portfolio and to start applying for different positions. Okay, so let's say that right now you have figured out what you want to include in your portfolio. Once you have that figured out, you can consider the next important point, and that would be navigation. And here it's super important to make sure that people know how to find their way around in your portfolio. If someone gets lost in navigating your case studies and your about you page and whatever else you decide to include in that case, basically you've lost them. So navigation is one of the most important things that you have. Try not to overcomplicate it, and try to make sure that everyone understands where they are at a specific point in time. And for this reason, we usually, or from my perspective, usually it's websites are the best way to go. I've also seen Figma portfolios, and I've also seen slide decks or presentations. I think those can work as well, but a good simple navigation is a lot easier to do in a website rather than in a Figma portfolio or in a presentation. But whatever you do, and you have to make sure that it's always easy for the person who is reviewing your portfolio, and they always understand what they're currently looking at and how they can get to the previous page and where you display all of your work. So navigation is super important. If someone gets lost, it's already a signal that this is not a very strong portfolio, and there are some things which are not that well for that specific designer. Okay, so once you figured out navigation, it's time to move on to the next one, and this is portfolio copy. Here, the most important thing I can share is to make sure that you are writing copy which is enticing and engaging. Copy is the hidden, more or less hidden architecture and infrastructure of your portfolio. The right words can guide the attention. It tells a bit more. It tells the person who's reviewing the portfolio. It tells them just the right amount of information, and it invites them to read more and to go deeper. So that's why you want to avoid generic copy. Generic copy is the worst. It doesn't tell you anything about what you did, and it doesn't invite the person who's checking out your portfolio. It doesn't invite them to read more. And from this perspective, it's super important to pay attention to headlines and subheadings. These are super important, and they guide the attention, and they guide the person who's reviewing to learn more or to find out more. Subheadings are also very important. They can build up a structure for your case studies, and they can walk the person who's reviewing them through the case studies, and they show the flow from beginning to end. A bad heading would be, for example, so say hi to Tootsie or whatever app or product name you would like to use, or introducing just another smartphone app for your managing today. Something that would be better along is how we simplified, I don't know, planning for young adults, how we how you did something or how you improved specific things. The main idea with copy is to provide a little value, tell about the project, and invite the reviewer to read more and to actually go deeper into your work. Moving on, so once you have the copy written down, another important factor is personalization. And here I've seen so many templates, so many portfolios where the designer just went with the generic template, and they didn't change anything, and they only added their work. Whereas If the portfolio is a bit a snapshot of where you currently are as a designer, it should tell something about you. And especially nowadays, it's super important to add a personal note that shares who you are as a designer. And at the end of the day, UX is a lot about visual communication, and whether we like it or not, there is visuals are an important part in it, so there's no way of going around that. And from that perspective, your portfolio is an opportunity for you to say who you are as a designer and what kind of a designer you are. Are you a bold designer or are you a bit more classic? If you're a bit more classic, then you might go with maybe some more serif fonts, um, some more traditional types of contrast. Whereas if you're bolder, then you might prefer very strong colors or more intense contrast. And I cannot stress how important this is. So on the one hand side, a personal note will help you differentiate yourself in the market, but it also conveys your professional identity. And there are a few ways in which you can do this. The first one would be an About You page, and these are usually included. And what I could recommend here is try to be a bit more specific about what makes you you. Like Rika mentioned, some hobbies, some things that you enjoy doing. What I can recommend here is to avoid going with the general. So, as a designer, I just use empathy to build easy to use digital products. So, there are a lot of standard phrases and keywords that that a lot of designers use. What you want to do is try to step away from that and try to say something about what makes you you. Like one way you could approach this is to think about defining moments in your career. So, how did you decide to become a designer? Something that you like the most about working as a designer. So, try to think about the things that make your journey and your position unique. At the same time, don't go into a lot of detail. So, try to keep it short and sweet because long blocks of copy, no one really has that much time to read and to go through. And also, portfolio recruiters usually spend a limited amount of time with your portfolio, so it has to be short and sweet, but at the same time reflect you. Besides the About You page, there's another thing that you can do to make sure that you stand out, and this is the look and feel of your portfolio. And I think I'm not the only one who notice this, but there are a lot of digital products which look the same and they feel the same. And it happens as well with portfolios, so you definitely need to stand out. And visual designs and look and feel is one of the ways in which you can do that. And there's a two side to this as well, is that the look and feel of your portfolio is an opportunity to show how well you master the visual craft or the visual part as a designer. And I think we've all heard this conversation a lot of times, is that visual skills matter, taste matter, craft matters, and how you build the aesthetic part of your portfolio is a good opportunity to show that, and as well a good opportunity to show that you are a bit more that you can be a bit more creative. And you can definitely approach this as a branding exercise. So think about what are some things that you stand out, that you stand for, and how can you communicate that. One thing I can suggest here is to try to build up a mood board, and this can be very effective in deciding what sort of visual elements you want to communicate, how you want to communicate. And here, try not to limit yourself only to UI elements. So, collect all sorts of images that can be helpful and inspiring. So, think of UI elements, photos, textures, anything and everything that inspires you and things that make you feel like you. Once you have that, I think it's definitely you can start building a look and feel based on that, and you can decide how you reflect your personality in the color choices, like in contrast, visual elements that might seem a bit different, handwritten notes. I actually saw a portfolio a few weeks ago, and it was the standard digital product field, but it had some handwritten notes here and there, and it looked very interesting, and it was something that stood out. how your portfolio actually looks, it's really a chance to be a bit more creative and to stand out in a sea of cookie cutter portfolios. And this is something that I cannot, is equally important as what you put in your portfolio. That said, once you figured out how to make your portfolio look like you, I think it's very important to think about the storytelling. And here it's it's essential not to add any anything and everything that you've all of the materials that you have regarding your case study, but it's important to tell a concise and meaningful stories about your work. So recruiters usually don't have the time to read everything that you did on a project, and I've also often seen case studies where it starts going very deep into the research that was performed. There are a lot of supporting materials, and I'm scrolling 5 or 6 times, and I still haven't clearly understood what's the problem or where is the solution. Case studies like this, they can test a bit the recruiter's patience, and it's kind of like a story that goes on for too long. You start to forget what it's about, and you don't remember exactly why you're here. So that's why it's super important to keep it short but meaningful. And how can you make sure to do that? From my perspective, there are 4 important things to make sure that you're always covering in your case studies. Number one is the problem that you solved, how you identified the problem, the solution, and how you made decisions that got to that solution. And if you have these 4 points covered, then I think you have a pretty good structure. And it's also a matter of how you balance the supporting materials with the solution that you've designed. So it's always highly recommended to add supporting materials, but don't overdo it. So it's enough if you can summarize the research and the screenshot for it. You don't have to add all of the personas, all of the user journeys, all of the research scripts that you've done. It's enough if you can give a snapshot of the research that you've done. What I can also recommend here for the storytelling part is to try to include a relevant flow without making it too generic. It's often that I've seen onboarding flows designed kind of like as the main heroes of a case study, and onboarding flows are good in and themselves, but they're not the essence of a product. So try to make sure that you're including a relevant flow that shows actually the solution to your design problem. Always try to share the context briefly. So, what's the problem you're solving, and how did you come up with it? And try to make sure that this is about 2 paragraphs at most. It's not like you don't need to start telling a bedtime story here where you're going all the way to the beginning. The other thing for storytelling is to try to make sure that you're striking a balance between visuals and copy. And by balance here, I mean more visuals, less copy, because design is inherently visual. And ideally, your work should speak for yourself. So make sure that the images that you're adding are very clear, they're large enough to understand what's going on. And it's not a blurry image where the recruiter has to zoom in to see what's happening. Embedding portfolios is also a great idea. So whenever you can, try to make sure that you're doing that, and copy, use it wisely, just enough to provide context and supplement what's already in your work. And with this, I think we can go over some bonus tips as well. So these are the 5 main points, and there are some bonus tips as well. So try try to make sure, or whatever you're doing with your portfolio, please don't send Figma handover files as as your portfolio. I've seen this quite a few times where the candidate, they just add a handover file without any explanation, or even worse, there are multiple projects in the same file without any context. And the rule of thumb for me here is that if a designer would have a hard time figuring out, then probably a recruiter is just going to close the tab and move on. And you want to make sure that you are avoiding this situation. So whether it's a website or a presentation, make sure that whatever format you have, they're including relevant context, visuals, and rationale for your design decisions. The other one is try to make sure that you are sending the portfolio in the language that you're applying in. I can also say that we've received Spanish portfolios for an English job opening where we weren't mentioning anything about Spanish language skills. If you really want a job, a position, and you want to apply for it, then please make sure that you're sending the portfolio in the language that you're actually applying in. That said, there are a few other tips, and the third one is, for the love of God, whatever you do, just don't send a link to the to a Google Drive. And I know it's 2026, but I've seen this so many times that I feel compelled that I have to mention it. This is similar to just dropping portfolios into just dropping recruiters in your Figma files. This is a big no-no. Your portfolio should tell the story of your work. It should be a snapshot of where you currently are as a designer, and just images uploaded to a Google Drive folder will fail to do that. So whenever I see that, I'm like, oh God, so this is probably not going to be a good portfolio. So whatever you do, no Figma file. I mean, don't just drop into Figma files, and no Google Drive. Yeah, I think for a resume that could work, but not for a portfolio. I miss 2006 sometimes as well, but not for portfolios. And with that, we have one last tip. Enrica touched about this as well. So whenever you can, talk about the impact. And this is a tricky one because we don't always have access to information regarding our work, and sometimes we don't have access to see how the work that we did actually moved the needle on some metrics. However, it's important to include impact whenever you can, and there are a few ways to do this. So if you have numbers available, then amazing, great, include them whenever you have them. However, try to avoid situations where you just say 4 out of 5 users reported that they find something easy to use. The problem with this is that it's not really that statistically relevant, and for someone who works with numbers on a daily basis, they understand this, and they know that it's not 100%. It's not as reliable as saying that, hey, we improved a conversion rate by 50%, or we increase the conversion rate by 2 times. So show numbers where available, but if you don't have numbers, there is also something that you can do. And in that case, you can talk about changed behavior, and this is the best option that you do if the numbers aren't available. And as Ulrika mentioned earlier, try to mention how your design has changed behaviors, what are users doing differently, what change did your design bring about in a specific environment. So these are not as impressive as numbers, but change in behavior still counts as impact, and this is something that you can also include in your case studies and in your portfolios to show that your work did bring up change and it did bring impact. And with this, now that I've told you about what to do and what not to do about your portfolios, I will hand it over to Akosh, who will tell you more about how leaders make hiring decisions.
Yes, thank you very much, Laura and Rico, for the amazing tips. Now I will continue with the UX hiring realities from the employer's point of view. Let's see how you get to the interview and how I make hiring decisions as a product lead based on your application package. Since the stations of the hiring process differ from company to company, I will walk you through what's universal in the later stages of the hiring process, such as the portfolio and case study reviews and the interview and portfolio presentation. Let's start with your portfolio and its format. We can see that many juniors don't take the portfolio format into consideration, which sets you off on the wrong path from the very beginning. Today, if you want to make the best impression, your portfolio should be a website that can be accessed through your own domain. This shows that you take your career seriously enough to invest in it. The issues with other formats like PDFs, Drive folders, and Figma files is that they can be hard to make sense of, especially when it comes to navigating them. Then you have Behance or Dribble, which are very good for community showcase and feedback, especially when it comes to UIs, but they are not professional UX portfolio formats. So your best bet is to go for a portfolio website unless you are asked otherwise. Now let's talk about aesthetics. Once you have a portfolio website that can be opened through your own domain, we are off to a great start. When we open the link, the attention shifts to visuals and the first impression you make as a designer. Here's the context. The look of your portfolio is a reflection of your own taste. It is a product that was created by you as the decision maker. No stakeholder, no external factors and limitations. So it will reveal a lot about you. So how can you make the best first impression? Before designing anything, think about your target audience. It's not only fellow designers. It's also recruiters, HR personnel, design leads, product leads, maybe even CEOs, many of whom might not be designers like myself. Yet we have to judge your portfolio since we are part of the hiring process. So my advice takes all of these audiences into consideration. When thinking about the first impression, remember that tastes differ. If you want to optimize for universal appeal, I always suggest starting from minimalism and later infusing your own flair into it using the tips from Laura. The reason for this is simple. I think minimalism is the most universally appealing and least polarizing aesthetic, so it is a great base for everything to start from. Let's see what matters to me as a non-designer when judging the aesthetic of your portfolio. Here, the keyword is consistency. As a product lead, I think this is one of the most important things in design and in designers. By consistency, I mean that you should create patterns and reuse them, like a design system or a brand guide. This covers a fixed color palette that's applied mindfully throughout the entire portfolio, clear information architecture in sections, headings, paragraphs, buttons, lists, and cards, visuals edited to harmonize with each other, so going the extra mile to make them actually match. One, maximum two fonts, matching case study thumbnails, meaning that the thumbnails should look great on their own, but they also must look good and consistent as a group, using the same mockup styles, using similar backgrounds. To summarize, when it comes to the aesthetics of a portfolio and the first impression, my advice would be to always start with minimalism and build on that, and then to pay attention to consistency. The reason being that these things can be sensed even by people who are not designers by profession. We all like clean design. Let's continue with the theme of the first impression. The first thing everyone will see of your portfolio is the hero section on your landing page. Many designers overthink this section, which results in visual and content clutter. Here's what should be included in a great hero section. Your name, your profession, more precisely, an actual position, just like Reika also highlighted. So it's not design unicorn or creative designer. These are titles that say nothing. So it should be, if you are a UX designer, it should be simply UX designer, and the same goes for product designers, UX researchers, and so on. Then you should have a tagline that actually means something, including some of the following information. What do you do, the scope, the specialization, your experience level, your approach to design, maybe where do you reside. And my tip here is just to write all of these down in a list and ask AI to make a cohesive and concise tagline out of it, if you don't like writing copy, obviously. But just all of this information and the basic information is necessary. There's no need to force like wittiness or like humor here in this tagline. It should be just clear. And what you should not add to your hero section is definitely a huge image of yourself. The reason being that as a leader, I don't want to know how you look. I only care about your work and your process. Also, you should not add fancy things that only, for example, appear on hover, or like things that chase my cursor. I have seen that in a few portfolios, and like elaborate animations that are confusing and moving on their own. These are distracting for the viewer, and it's just not good UX, and you are supposed to be a UX designer. So yeah, it's not the best look for the first impression. If you made the right first impression with the format of your portfolio and your taste level, I will start reviewing your case studies. Since I have to review dozens of portfolios in a short time, I will open 2 case studies maximum. For this reason, I think having 3 case studies is enough in a portfolio. Most people will not read more than 3. That takes too much time. If you have more than 3 in a portfolio, for me, I would make the assumption that you don't know how to curate your work and to make decisions or kill your darlings. Also, I don't think, yeah, as I said, anyone would have time to read more than 3. Here's what I look for in a case study. On the first scroll, I will check how it looks visually. Did you use consistent visual elements? Is it matching the rest of your portfolio? Is it too long? Is it too short? I would suggest somewhere between 500, 600 words maximum. Then I will dig deeper to look for the following information. The scope of the project, which should be right at the beginning, including time, team, your responsibilities, what was delivered, and what were the results in numbers and impact. Next, I will look for evidence of design thinking for each step that you did or you present. Here's a list of the questions that I am asking when I'm going through your case study. What did you do? Why did you do it? What was the approach? What was the finding? What were the roadblocks, constraints? What were the various iterations and decisions? How did you validate the solution? How did the outcome benefit the user? There's no need to answer all of them with each step, just the relevant ones for each. Also, as I implied, it's very important that you break up your paragraphs with relevant visuals, because these give us a break from all of the text and reading and help us visualize your work. Finally, I'd like to see the end product with a summary that includes impact from numbers to qualitative data, whatever you can present. It can be also feedback, just like Reka said. Also, just an extra tip here, it is a huge red flag if the word user is rarely mentioned in your case study. Sometimes I do a Command F to check the word user in a case study. If all the above went well, you will be invited to an interview. And here I can give you some behind-the-scenes secrets that are rarely discussed. We hire people for their potential to align with our mission, execute the product vision, and make a measurable difference. And the portfolio or project presentation reveals a lot on this front. It's one thing that you put together the portfolio, but it's the presentation that will reveal whether you can communicate your ideas and logic verbally. How you communicate those things will drive decisions in your day-to-day work life. The question is, can you present a well-rounded case that drives buy-in from your team and your lead? During an interview, it's best to mention and present the project that's already in your portfolio. The reason being that both you and the interviewers will have some existing knowledge about it, and you can also screen share your portfolio to have an outline and show the deliverables. Here's what I mean by making a well-rounded case. A clear problem statement underpinned by user and business needs or research data, the expectations for the solution you worked on, your quest to find that solution, the solutions that were considered but dismissed, the iteration process. How did you choose the best solution, considering factors such as constraints, resources, and all feedback from users and the team as well? And finally, measuring the success of the solution. If you touch on most of these questions during your presentation, we can see that you have great communication and structured reasoning skills, and you can advocate for your design. And that is what drives action, and action drives impact. Finally, a few more tips. Explain why did you personally found that issue or project or feature important. This shows that you have opinions, which is very important in a product team. Ask if your audience has any questions, if anything needs to be clarified. This shows curiosity and care for others. And also, don't be afraid to show your passion or enthusiasm by highlighting your favorite part of the process or anything like that, because we want to work with passionate professionals in a team. So we have discussed a lot until this point. So now let's see how the hiring decision itself is made after the final round, which is usually the interview. Here's the context. There's a lot of pressure on the hiring team and the leader when hiring a new team member. Here you have to consider that the hiring process eats up a lot of resources, time, effort, and money. Also, the actual process might have started weeks or even months before the interview. Then a decision has to be made, and the expectation is that it's the best decision since we will invest a lot in that person. We hire people with the knowledge that it will take time for them to catch up with everything, learn our processes, channels, and get acclimated to the team and the company. We organize various onboarding sessions for the person on the company level, the team level, and also the domain level. We also take care of paperwork, work like relocation, work visa, and so on. And we invest a lot of effort in time throughout feedback and one-on-ones. So we want to make the best decision, obviously, for the long term. And we don't make compromise hires. We are looking for a skilled person and a great cultural fit. If we were to hire someone who doesn't work out in one of these areas, then the entire process has to start from the beginning, while that position remains empty, which is a huge issue, since if we are hiring, it means that we need that person to progress towards our business goals and other expectations set by the stakeholders. So until that position is filled, we cannot do that. If the hire doesn't work out and we restart the entire process, we are losing lots of time and cannot keep up with our goals, which is a huge blow. These are the factors that put the pressure on the hiring side. Let's see what our strategy is to choose the best person or make the best hire. First of all, we consider your entire application package after all of these stages. Your preparedness, attention to detail, and effort throughout all the rounds of the hiring process, including the homework, portfolio, and the interview. We will also consider your communication skills. Did you have real answers, or did you just ramble without saying anything of substance? It's important to see that you have opinions, you can take a stance and underpin those with strong reasoning. Then we would ask, did you have specific and relevant questions for us? Or we would like to see that, showing that you care and you take our company and the product seriously. Then it's about team fit and cultural fit, which comes down to the following. How did you talk about your previous projects? We don't expect you to lie, but you can express frustrations or disappointment in a way that's not insulting. The important thing is that we don't bring down others with our words and actions, even if they are not present. The next question is, how do you treat each person who's at the interview? My most important tip here is to never interrupt people and to pay mind to everyone, not only the person who is the highest in the hierarchy. Then it's about the team. Can we imagine you as part of the existing team? And it's all about your demeanor. Do you seem open and receptive during the interview? How do you react to feedback? When it comes to this, do not make excuses. This is not about defending your design. It's about how you treat feedback, positive or constructive. Wait for the feedback to finish and then give your insights. Ask questions about the feedback to show that you can and want to understand it better. Then the next question is, do you think before you answer? Feel free to gather your thoughts during the interview, especially if it's a question that caught you off guard. It shows that you want to give a comprehensive answer, not just react in this situation. The next question is, can you advocate for yourself? Asking for some time to collect your thoughts, asking people to elaborate on a question so you can give a better answer. During the interviews, we take notes, and after the interview, we discuss our impressions, your application package, and the potential benefits and risks we see working with you. Then I will, at this point, based on all of the input and feedback from the team, I would, as a leader, and like every leader, we have to make a decision about the hire. Based on the team's feedback and my own impressions, I will sit down and think about the candidates. The decision here can be either to hire someone from the candidates or to restart the whole hiring process. And as I said, we are not making compromise hires, and most companies don't want to make compromise hires. When such decision is made, these are the questions I consider as a leader. Are the strengths of this person aligned with our mission and vision? Could they own and execute the process leading there? Are we willing to work with their weaknesses throughout mentoring or feedback? And can those weaknesses be worked on based on our impressions of this person? Would I be okay to let this person communicate with any team member without my presence? Can I trust them to be constructive and empathetic? Would I like to work with this person? And do I have any doubts or weird feelings about the candidate? And that's how the decision is made. As you can see, salary, relocation, and all the other come like much later, because if we want to work with you, we will do everything in our power and within reason to accommodate you. And basically, these were my insights from the decision-making side. So I will hand back the microphone to Reka at this point. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ákos and Laura, for sharing your insights. After hearing from all three of us, you probably have a clearer picture of the hiring process than when we started. So let me sum up what the game is really about. Based on all the portfolios we've seen over the years, most designers, especially juniors, think that the key to success is making your portfolio look super impressive, adding all those animations, custom cursors, just like Ákos mentioned. Showing everything you've ever done. Laura talked about this, that many people think that they have to squeeze in everything they worked on during their careers. Then adding every detail and artifact in your case studies. Those super long case studies with all the materials inside them won't be read. And using the perfect template. But the real game is about something else. It's about making your portfolio a good experience for reviewers. An easy to access format, straightforward navigation, scannable layouts, and consistent design. And showing relevance and role match. So don't make reviewers guess what you do. Make it clear from the first moment they land on your portfolio. The other side of this tip is actually to apply for jobs that match your expertise. And then the connection will be clean immediately. Telling a concise and engaging story. So don't list every step you did in a project. Highlight your thinking and impact instead. And showing who you are as a designer, both visually and on your about page through your content. Just like Laura said, add some elements that make you you, both in the visual side, so add your personal branding on your portfolio, make it recognizable, and also through your content. Share your approach to design, share something about you. And remember, hiring managers aren't trying to reject you. They're just trying to find the right person for the role. Make it easy for them. If your portfolio clearly shows you can do the job they're hiring for, you're ahead of most candidates. This wraps up the presentation part of the webinar. So the word is back to you, Yaren.
Huge thanks to Reka, Laura, and Ákos. Let's quickly move into the Q&A section. And I will grab some questions for you. So, all right. So the first question is, if I have experience outside UX or product, how can I present it so it actually helps my application?
Great question. This actually comes up a lot. If you're switching to UX from a non-UX background, use your previous career to your advantage. Don't hide it. First of all, consider applying for UX roles in your previous industry. If you come from finance, then target fintech companies because domain knowledge is incredibly valuable and it immediately sets you apart from other candidates. Secondly, identify the transferable skills from your previous career and highlight them on your About page. If you're transitioning from, let's say, marketing, then highlight your research and data analysis skills. If you worked as an architect, then emphasize your systems thinking and attention to detail. The key is finding those connections and showing them clearly. Third, if you don't have real UX work yet, then create concept projects that solve problems in your previous industry. This shows your problem-solving skills and UX thinking. So, bottom line, the worst thing you can do is try to hide your background or treat it as a disadvantage, because it's not. Frame it as an asset in your portfolio and apply for roles where it matters.
Thank you, Reka. This was super clear. And let's get into the second question. I'm a UX researcher, not a designer. What do recruiters want to see in a UX research portfolio?
I can take this one. So recruiters want to see something similar as in UX design portfolios. One, that you understand the task that you need to do, that you can explain the context, that you know what you need to do within that specific situation. Like, so if for a UX design project you need to find a visual solution for a problem, then for a UX research project, then you need to show that you know how to choose your methods, you know how to ask the right questions, and you know how to find the answers to those questions. So I think there are some similarities and some differences between UX research and UX design, but the background or the architecture is the same, is that you have to show that you understand the work, that you know how to solve the problem, whether it's for design or research, and why you made specific choices to get to that solution, and ideally, if it's available, the impact. Like for example, for UX research, if you can show what were the consequences of your research, how were they applied, how were those insights actually put into practice, that would be golden.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Laura, for the answer. And the third question is, how formal and business-oriented should your portfolio be? Struggling to balance the business impact with easy-to-follow read writing, especially since you might be sharing it with a company or an individual starting a new venture.
Yeah, so I will answer this question, and I will try to be very short, and I think I can be very short here. We are running out of time. Your portfolio should be UX oriented if you are a UX designer. So it should be about the design, showing your design thinking, and when it comes to you hear a lot about impact, and obviously business impact is included in that, but it can be even feedback from users and so on. So impact can be shown in many different ways. You are not applying for a business position. So at least in my opinion, what your portfolio should be showing is your design thinking, the UX design process that you have been following, and the impact of that process on the users. And if you have all of the business numbers as well, or you can include business numbers, that is great. Great to see. So don't get me wrong. It's not that you should exclude it, but I feel like that is like a nice addition. I just think that sometimes, the expectations towards portfolios differ from company to company and maybe from lead to lead as well. But expecting a business-oriented case study from a UX designer, I don't necessarily think is realistic or something that should be done. It should be about UX decisions and your UX design thinking. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you all for your answers. That's all the time we have for questions for these sessions, but we will make sure to share the answers after the session or through the socials. We know that you have many more questions. about this session. So before we close, here is what we promised. If you want to put everything you learned today into practice, UXfolio is built specifically for designers who want to create portfolios that actually get them hired. And here are the discount codes. You can use Get Hired yearly for 30% of the yearly plan, and you can also use Get Hired monthly to get 1 month free on the monthly plan. And as mentioned, we will also send a recording of this session and a super helpful checklist will be dropping into your inboxes. So keep an eye on your inbox. And another update, one but not least, next week we will be back with another session. I have seen your case study 500 times this week with Anfiza. So also, please look out for the invitation email. Thank you so much for joining, and we can't wait to see you next week.
Thank you all. Bye bye.
Thanks for
Bye.
joining. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye.